Twins. Ready to get cracking, get the week started. How y'all doing this morning?
Good. How you doing, Kyle? What's up, Dave?
Doing pretty good, man. Dave, you doing all right?
I'm doing excellent. Michigan won last night, going to the championship playoffs here, and just a quick go blue. And let's get into this when you guys are ready.
Yeah, man. I'm interested to see what you guys did with your lineups this week. Dave, we'll start with you. Actually, I'm gonna pull you guys up top because y'all are the stars of this show.
Hey, Tony.
I cut my hair. I cut my hair last night to make sure I really look like my caricature here.
Yeah, and I didn't shave, so I got the hat on. So on Kyle's style. So
yeah, there you go. There you go. Harry and with a hat.
Yep. So this week was very unusual for me with my lineup. I made it and haven't changed it once, and that's how strong.
When did you make it?
About 3-4 days ago, actually.
Okay.
I did think there was going to be a possible change, but I guessed right. And probably the glue that holds my lineup together is a really cheap tight end again. You've seen me do that before. But Foster Moreau of the Raiders is incredibly cheap. He is $2,700.
Yeah, he's my tight end of the week too.
Yep, with Waller out, he almost might be a free space. It might be every single lineup you come across in DFS has him in it for cash games. He's just that safe. And then I had a lot of running backs to choose from. This was probably the biggest collection of running backs we've ever seen that all have great matchups. You had all kinds of options and varieties. But there were 3 guys that I wanted in my lineup. So I picked 2 running backs and have a running back in the flex. I went with Mixon, who has just been extremely safe for several weeks now. I read he has 12 touchdowns in the last 8 games. It's tough to find that. And they like feeding him, and the Chargers are easy to run on. So Mixon was my starting point. There are some more expensive running backs that are exciting. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor every week. But Mixon, I thought, again, was worth the value. He's around 8,000. Let's see, 8,100. Expensive for me normally, but that's what Foster Moreau enabled me to do. Next up was Antonio Gibson. He's also been on fire. The Raiders are classically easy to run on. And the bonus this week is McKissick is hurt. He got banged up at the end of the last game. I really think Gibson's going to carry the load even more than normal. And then my final piece was Elijah Mitchell. Seattle is one of the easiest teams to run on. They're broken. They don't score points. I think San Francisco's just going to run it down their throat. Also, Deebo Samuel is out. So you don't have Deebo vulturing anything away from Mitchell. I think they're going to lean on him even more. So those 3 were a backbone. Actually, my son taught me this lesson at receiver that I went with this week. Deontay Johnson, who he's got on his team, and he keeps not starting for other better receivers. And he finally said, I'm starting him no matter what. And I agreed with him this week. Got Deontay Johnson in my lineup. I went and looked. The Ravens are starting a bunch of rookies at cornerback this week. They are decimated by injuries. And Deontay is just one of the safest players in fantasy right now. He's not cheap. He's $6,800. But again, for that safety, it's worth it. I surrounded him with 2 upside but riskier receivers. Van Jefferson on the Rams. Odell's banged up. Darrell Henderson's banged up. Jefferson's been getting regular attention, lots of targets. Tony taught me that about him. If you go and look at him, only guy really targeted more than him is Cooper Kupp. So he's a really safe play, and he came in cheap. And then kind of like Deontay Johnson, I finally realized Darnell Mooney is just safe enough that you got to start him. He's the main threat for Chicago. I think they're going to be losing that game. Dalton seems to like him, and he came in cheap at 5,600. So that left me with only 2 positions left to fill. I did my defense first this week. I really wanted the Dolphins. The Dolphins are hot. Mike Glennon starting for the Giants. It just was a must start. And I looked at the quarterbacks, and I'm going with probably the one contrarian thing this week. The Lions are really easy to run on, but they're also easy to pass on. I think everyone wants Madison in their lineup this week with Cookout, but I went a different direction and put in Kirk Cousins. I think that they want to get their offense right, and they want to get Jefferson and Thielen more involved this week with Cookout, and I think Cousins can be sneaky. Stafford tore them up when they played. I think Cousins is going to do the same.
Yeah, I like that. Sounds good. I know I got several of your guys playing in some of my season longs this week. Gibson and Mitchell, I got starting pair in a couple of leagues. I got Van Jefferson in several. So I like that a lot. And also, we were talking before we went on the air. I know you guys didn't talk beforehand like you usually do before the show to kind of see where you're at. So I'll be real interested to see how Tony's lineup differs. So, Tony, why don't you walk us through that, bud?
Yeah, so David and I always seem to have some overlap, and we do have that again this week. When I started, and I decided ultimately not to go in this direction, but when I started to approach my DFS lineup, I really wanted to get Cousins in my lineup this week. This is the easiest matchup for opposing quarterbacks. Detroit is the top matchup for opposing quarterbacks, and Cousins is the QB5 since week 6, which really very sneaky. Not many people are paying attention to Cousins. I also really love the stack with Thielen versus Detroit's cornerback Melafanu. He is a league leader in yards and points allowed to opposing wide receivers. So I was really going to go with the Cousins Thielen stack. However, decided to try something different this week. And what I wanted to do is I really wanted to own the Colts offense versus a very weak Houston defense. And each week there seemed to be in DFS 2 or 3 players that you must have in your lineup to win. And this week I'm predicting, and it's not much of a prediction, but I'm predicting that one of those players to be Jonathan Taylor. So I went all in with a different type of stack, and I went with the QB running back stack to own all of the offensive points with the Colts. I also wanted JT on a week where everyone else is most likely going value at running back with Madison and Jamal Williams and David Montgomery and Miles Sanders. So let me just kind of start with Wentz. He's got a very favorable matchup, great value at 6,100 on DraftKings. I'm expecting a little bit of a bounce back, although I'm kind of hesitant to call it a bounce back, but maybe a bounce back week after taking that loss last week to the Bucks. That said, owning Wentz is mostly about Jonathan Taylor. And again, I wanted him in my lineup this week to secure all of those Colts offensive points. JT, I don't need to tell anybody much about him. He's the new #1 fantasy running back. He's an elite RB. He's going up against the 31st ranked defense against opposing running backs in yards allowed. And so, yeah, I really wanted him in my lineup as a DFS winner this week. I also decided to go with Elijah Mitchell. He is getting involved in this passing game. Seattle is allowing the most receptions and receiving yards to opposing running backs this season than any other defense. So I love Mitchell. I love him in this matchup at his price point at 6,000. And I also took the same flex or as David and Antonio Gibson. This guy grabbed 7 targets on Monday night. McKissick is out today versus the Raiders. So I'm looking for Gibson really to be a volume monster in the rushing and receiving game. Also, the Raiders have allowed the 5th most fantasy points to opposing running backs in the last 4 weeks. So Gibson was a guy that I really wanted to make sure I got into my lineup as well. David went with Van Jefferson, and I decided to go with OBJ at one of my receiver positions. I think this is one of the best value plays for me this week. The Jags are the top matchup for opposing wide receivers, and although I'm very much in love with Van Jefferson, don't look now because very, very quickly OBJ has played almost 100% of the offensive snaps last week. He's about a quarter of the target share. The Rams are talking about getting him more involved in the offense, and he lines up this week against Tyson Campbell, who has been one of the easiest matchups for opposing wide receivers. And so I do love Van Jefferson for $200 less, but OBJ was the guy that I preferred this week because of that matchup. I also, even though I have Mitchell, I decided to go with Brandon Ayuk. Without Debo, I think Ayuk is an absolute must start. He is looking at 25 to 30% of the target share. And even with Debo in the lineup, he's the wide receiver 15 since week 8. So I'm looking for him to erupt this week versus that Seattle Seahawks defense going up against cornerback Sidney Jones, who is allowing a passer rating of 121 this year. Great value at 5,600. My other receiver is Brandon Cooks. We played the Colts in week 6. If you go back and look at his stat line, 13 targets, 9 catches, 89 yards. Colts defense is a great matchup for opposing wide receivers, and I wanted to have the other side of my Wentz JT stack. I expect the Colts to have a high offensive output, and Houston's going to have to throw the ball today. I also went with Foster Island Moreau. I love the value in Moreau this week, 2,700 for a tight end that will most likely capture 100% of the snap count. Last time he played without Waller, he went for 18 points. Love his value. And the Raiders have an offense that has built around featuring the tight end with Waller. So they're going to utilize him in their game script, in their game plan. And I also went with the Dolphin defense. Great matchup versus a banged-up New York Giant offense that will be without Daniel Jones. I like them a lot at only 3,300. The other defense I was really looking at that you can consider, I also love the value of the 49ers this week versus a struggling Seahawk offense. So we do have some overlap. It'll be interesting to see how things work out this week. I do like my Jonathan Taylor over your Joe Mixon, but I don't blame you at all for starting Cousins. That's actually where I started this week.
Yeah, and I like Wentz too. I actually did some snake drafts on DraftKings where you actually pick players, and Wentz was my sneaky late quarterback to grab.
Yeah.
To bring in, and it's actually a nice offset to Taylor too, because he still throws to Taylor.
Yes.
The problem with the Colts, as a Pittman owner, I can tell you, is it seems like they don't care who they throw to, whether it's Pascal, Hilton, Doyle. You just have no clue who the guy's going to be there. So rather than stacking with a receiver, I like the Taylor stack on that. I was a little nervous about Beckham being a little banged up, but can't fault you for getting him in that same game. It's probably a coin flip between him and Jefferson.
Sure.
I'm nervous about the passing game for San Fran just because I think they're going to run all over them, and Seattle can't put up any offense. But Ayuk is so athletic, it takes one play for him to pay off for you. He could get a 70-yard touchdown catch today.
Well, they're not going to run the ball 60 times. They're going to have to pass it at some point.
It'll only be 52. You're right.
So I think based on what he's done the past several weeks without Debo, Ayuk for me was a guy that I think I see him as a must start until Debo comes back. And even when Debo's back, he's been very, very productive in that offense since week 8.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting how even not coordinating with each other, how you still have so much overlap. With
great minds think alike.
I know it's incredible.
The one guy who doesn't make me nervous in my lineup is Cooks, because Cooks just, since Tyrod's come back, has not really commanded that target share that we saw earlier in the season, the type of target share that many of us Cooks owners might have expected. So he's a little bit of a gamble, but I did want the flip side to that Colts offense. So
you went Cooks, Ayuk, and I went Deontay Johnson and Darnell Mooney. So that'll be probably the big decider between the two of us, other than the Mixon Taylor battle. The one running back I didn't get in my lineup that I did target in snake drafts and that I really looked at, considered, but I think he was too much to kind of make it work with what I had. Also, I love those other 3 running backs. Was Myles Gaskin. We talked about last week with Sanders. Sanders actually didn't pay off because he got hurt, but he had a great first half before he got hurt. They're a running back funnel. He's a nice stack with the Dolphins defense as a combo. When you put a running back with a defense, it's usually a nice match if it pays off, because if your defense is doing well, your offense is running the ball. So Gaskin is another running back I like this week. We're only doing the main slate. Everyone's talking about Javonte Williams of the Broncos. He wasn't a choice for us, but he's another guy that's probably a must start if you're playing in games where he's available, with Gordon out this week.
Yeah,
no, sure. I agree with all that. Another guy too that you can really think about, and it surprises me that I'm even saying this, because I've talked about selling those Baltimore running backs, but Devonta Freeman is a little bit sneaky this week at his price point, especially considering what Joe Mixon did to them last week. He definitely owns that backfield. Latavius Murray just is kind of spelling him at times. But He's around 65 to 70% of the carries on that offense, 15 to 20 touches a game. So he's a guy that I do like, not enough to put him into my DFS lineup, but just another guy that does offer some value.
And is cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap.
Yeah. Dave, I actually had the same issues with OBJ as you did between him and Van Jefferson. A little bit worried about him being banged up, hurting that hip last week. Tony, you're not worried about that much?
No, I checked this morning, and everything that I've seen so far leading up to game time is saying that he's a full go, and they expect him not only to be a full go, but to be even more involved in that offense. So between that and in the cornerback matchup, he was a guy that I liked over Van Jefferson. Now I own Van Jefferson in almost every season-long league, so of course I have him going in all of those leagues. But between him and Van Jefferson this week, mostly because of the cornerback matchup where he's been very susceptible to the deep pass, I like OBJ just a little bit over him. Now, if it comes out before game time that OBJ is going to be limited, like we saw with Cooper on Thursday night, where 10 minutes before game time, you got reporters tweeting out, stay away from Cooper tonight. Matthew Berry tweeted out. So if we see something like that OBJ, I'll pull him and I'll sneak Van Jefferson in.
Yeah, because I didn't check a lot of sites this morning, but the main blurb that I saw about OBJ was he's gonna play through the pain was the quote that I saw, and I always hate seeing that because it's like, oh, one little aggravation and one catch, he gets tackled one time and he's done for the day. Kind of scares me off a lot. But what's nice is I think you guys said Jefferson's actually $200 cheaper. So if you have to sub him out, you can sub him out, and it's not going to make you move anything else around.
Correct.
So,
definitely.
Yeah, might wind up going in that direction.
The other guy in that game that looks like he might not play is Darrell Henderson, and I have him in some season longs. And there's 3 backs I'm looking at if that happens, and they're actually all reasonable plays for DFS also. Obviously, Sony Michel, if Darrell Henderson doesn't play, gains some value. I don't know if he's dynamic enough. If you looked at his last game, it was pretty uninspiring for his yards per carry, and he had like 1 catch on 3 targets. But he is
the volume will be there. The volume will be there, and he could get an accidental touchdown. So,
he's also newer on the team at that point, so he might be more comfortable in the offense. Another guy going to Tony's favorite game of the week, David Johnson's out, so Rex Burkhead could be an interesting player that ends up with 6 or 7 catches in this game if they're losing bad. Sure. And then I think this could be a Matt Breida sneaky week. I think that Belichick likes to take out other teams' favorite players. He might take out Diggs or Knox. Their running game, they're leaning more on him. Zach Moss was inactive last week, and Breida's fast. And that could be the weapon of choice for that game. So he could be another sneaky player that doesn't cost a lot that you can use.
Yeah, Matt Breida, the bane of Zach Moss season-long owner's existence. It's like that's what we needed was one more 3-headed monster running backfield.
Looks like we have a question.
Yeah, we got a question over here in the chat. They want to know if they should start Hunter Renfro, Darnell Mooney, or OBJ.
I think on that list, it's a tough decision. I'm looking at Renfro or Mooney there. And I think Renfro is probably the safest choice. The Redskins are horrible against the pass with Waller out. He could be in line for 12 targets.
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think Renfro this week is a clear-cut wide receiver 1. I think he's probably in that 10 to 12 range actually at the receiver position this week, especially without Waller. So I'm all over Hunter Renfro this week. I still don't fully trust Mooney.
It's hard, isn't it, in that offense?
Yeah, and we've talked about OBJ. I mean, I've got him in my DFS lineup. I absolutely love him this week. But you got Cooper Kupp, you have Van Jefferson, and I know Dave, you're talking about Sony Michel not being dynamic enough. If you've read some of the things that McVay said this week about Michel, calling him a very complete back, the fact that they want to get him more involved, you have to be a little bit concerned if you're a Darrell Henderson owner rest of the season. We'll see how that plays out today, but I'm not too concerned if I do have Henderson, and I've got the cuff with Michelle. I'm absolutely going to roll with him this week. So anyway, they have a variety of options there on offense. Hunter Renfro is it in that passing game. I think we're going to see some targets to Moreau, but Hunter Renfro could really have a monster game today.
Yeah,
I think he has the highest ceiling and the highest floor of those three guys.
I would agree with that also, yeah. And they look for him in the end zone too. As for your Sony Michel comments, I don't trust him at all. The Patriots
coach speak. Is that
the Patriots traded him? I think McVay's just scared that Jacksonville might just not even worry about the run. Michel, I feel like he tackles himself a lot. I've not seen any of these. He was from Georgia, supposedly great there. I haven't seen it in the NFL at all. And we're talking about a guy who came from the Patriots that made basically every running back they touched look great till they get traded somewhere else, and he didn't even look great on their team. So I'm that's why I like Van Jefferson this week.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting to start Michel. It sounds like the coaching staff likes him, and so my point with him is just on those three players. There are a lot of options there in that Rams offense. So makes OBJ a little bit shakier than someone like a Hunter Renfro who has a rock solid role.
Gotcha, definitely. Yeah, Renfro is just very safe. Like you said, his floor is great. They've used him for end zone looks a lot more recently. The Redskins are horrible against the pass. And Waller is what Carr looked at all the time. And they'll use Moreau, but he's probably going to lean on Renfro a lot more.
Sure.
And also, another factor, Josh Jacobs is banged up and might not play.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Unlikely, but Renfro could be the star of that game. He could be the Cooper Kupp of that game.
Yeah, no, he's a poor man's Cooper Kupp for sure.
Yeah, everything I've seen this morning kind of says that Jacobs intends to play. So,
which means he'll make it through the first quarter, I guess.
And I was going to say that doesn't mean he'll play the whole game either. So, I always hate it when guys are kind of on the fence like that. Like, oh, he expects to play, where it's like, okay, great, but is he going to play one series? Is he going to be limited at all? And so that's always a little bit worrisome. I guess if he is limited, maybe Kenyon Drake could be sneaky in there today. But
definitely,
I think I'd rather have Renfro out of that offense or Foster Moreau, as we already talked about. Either one of them over the running backs this week.
And Washington's been sneaky good against the run. So
yeah,
even more why they might lean on someone like a Renfro.
And their offense is hot, and the Raiders could be losing.
Right.
The Redskins have been pouring it on. So,
yeah. We got another question over here from Cockpit. What's up, guys? Jacoby Myers versus Buffalo. Excuse me. AJ Green versus Chicago, or Josh Reynolds versus Minnesota?
Wow, who do you like there, Dave?
That's a much tougher question. Definitely.
For sure.
So I'm actually probably going to go out on a limb here and surprise you. I'm going to go Josh Reynolds. He came from the Rams. They just got him. Goff seems to have a connection with him where he played with him before. I think Detroit's going to be losing that game. There's not going to be any DeAndre Swift. They're going to need other ways to create offense. Minnesota's defense doesn't scare me. They're a bit banged up. I think Buffalo against Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers is good for 8 points every week. I don't like that. And AJ Green has been more out than in recently. Hopkins may play, but I just don't have any good feelings about that offense. The game is in Chicago. I love the idea of a receiver playing in a dome this time of year, so I would go Reynolds actually.
Yeah, I disagree with you there on the AJ Green take. I would absolutely rule out Jacoby Myers. I'm not playing Jacoby Myers versus this Buffalo defense, number one ranked defense against the receiver position. I don't see how you put him in. So I think you've got to cross him out. It really is between AJ Green and Josh Reynolds. I like AJ Green in this matchup. Coming off the bye week, you got to think that this team is getting healthier. Kyler Murray is expected to start. And while D-Hop is looking to play this week, they are saying they're going to have him on a pitch count. AJ Green has been sneaky. He is a bit of a volume guy in this offense. Past 3 games, 20 targets overall. Kyler Murray, they're playing in Chicago. Chicago's been susceptible to the receiver position. So I probably lean AJ Green over Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, I think to me it comes down to weather and shootout potential. I think that Chicago-Arizona game is low scoring, and if anyone scores a lot, it's going to be Arizona with Connors running a lot. I just don't see that one being a track meet of scoring, whereas I could see Minnesota pouring in on Detroit and Reynolds getting a lot of garbage and maybe even one breakaway catch like he got last week.
Yeah, well, I mean, very possible. I think AJ Green, to me, gives me higher floor with Kyler Murray back in that offense and D-Hop on a pitch count, like I said. But the weather doesn't seem to be an issue in Chicago. It's going to be chilly, but they're not predicting snow or any type of blizzard-like conditions. So I don't think that's. I think
AJ Green does know that weather from Cincinnati, so it's not like he's not used to it.
Yeah, exactly right. I just think it'll be a non-factor.
Yeah, I was looking at Reynolds and Green. Myers also is the first one I crossed off. So
yeah. I am so sorry, guys. I actually think I like AJ Green better also, just because I'm not sure how much D-Hop's going to play today. And I really, really like that matchup for Green with a limited Hopkins. I think Kyler's probably more healthy than D-Hop, so he'll probably be a lot more full go than D-Hop will be. Not that anybody tunes into this show for my opinion, but there it is anyways. I'm the host. I'll do what I want.
Well, you're playing tiebreaker, so that works. So
Yeah, there you go.
I don't think you can go wrong with AJ Green in that situation over Reynolds.
Yeah.
Does it? Oh wow, there's a modifier question that changes everything.
Oh yeah, there you go. Does it change your mind if I already have D-Hop in the lineup too?
Yeah, I don't know that I want both.
I wouldn't want both.
I think then you've got to go Reynolds.
Yeah. Or you could be insuring yourself if D-Hop stops playing, but I think that's a dangerous game to pick two receivers in.
Then you've got, 2 spots for one receiver's worth of production. So, you get D-Hop for a quarter and then you get the other guy for 3 quarters. It's like
I actually
use the 2 spots for one guy.
I would probably play AJ Green over D-Hop.
I'm not sure I'm ready to make that move. But if you're playing D-Hop, I think I would switch over to Josh Reynolds, yeah. What do you think, Tony? You starting AJ Green over D-Hop?
I don't think I'm making that move either. What I would do though is I'd keep a very close eye on the injury report going into that game, just to see what type of reports are coming out of those pregame warmups. Yeah. And if D-Hop looks good and he's a full go, then certainly I don't have a problem rolling with D-Hop. This is a guy that even going into the game, if they say they're going to have him on a pitch count, this is a guy that the Cardinals absolutely need in that offense. You saw them struggle even with Kyler Murray without D-Hop. Mm-hmm. So D-Hop is just a type of guy that is going to fight to be on the field. He's been out for 3 or 4 weeks now, including the bye. So you'd like to think that he's healthy with that hamstring. I'm rolling him out this week unless something comes out before where it raises some red flags for me.
Yeah, definitely keep an eye on that injury report.
He's one of the few guys who gives you such a high ceiling that if he's a go, you almost have to have him in your lineup.
Oh, absolutely. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions. We're coming up on the half-hour mark. Either y'all have anything to add before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, I think that was perfect.
Definitely. You took me down, Tony. You scored more than me last week. We got a tight battle this week. Hopefully I'll get my revenge.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, David. Just a quick clarification. I outscored you the past 2 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're on the same page. That's all.
Yeah, but neither one of us have placed the last 2 weeks, so we have to. We'll see this week who can play.
Fair enough.
We're both on the podium, so
fair enough. I was in the money. until Cooper Kupp came on the end of that one game and kind of slid me out of the money position. But that's all good. You're right.
Well, we were both right on Gronk last week at tight end. Hopefully, we're right on Moreau this week. So
right. We won't talk about place last week. We'll just leave that. We'll leave that out of the conversation.
Oh, see, we got one more question here now. But first, I was gonna say, Tony's like, have you seen that meme where there's like the podium, the stand, the placement stand, the guys at the end kissing the girl, biting the metal, got champagne. He's like 6th place. All right, last question, and then we'll call her a day here. Marquise Brown or Hopkins?
Well, I am Mr. Risk Adverse, and so I would be all over Marquise Brown in that case. I do not like playing players coming off hamstring injuries till I see what they can do. And Marquise Brown is a solid option. I know he had some health concerns recently, but I think that game could be a track meet. Baltimore defense is horrible. Baltimore falls behind every time. And Marquise Brown had a run earlier in the season where he was unstoppable. And I don't know that Pittsburgh has enough to slow him down while trying to worry about Lamar Jackson at the same time, and Andrews and Bateman. I'm going Hollywood.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Tony's going to disagree with you.
Normally, I'd like to disagree. But no, in this case, I'm going to agree. Let me tell you why. This guy has commanded a strong target share in this offense. He is over 30% target share in this Baltimore offense, almost 12 targets a game. He's going up against a Steeler defense that can be exposed. They rank 29th in passer rating versus opposing quarterbacks. They also are one of the weakest teams in the league in giving up explosive plays to opposing wide receivers. So this kind of is a game, I think, where Brown is interesting that he's brought up because he is one of the guys that I wanted to have in my DFS lineup this week. So I love Brown this week, and I think he's definitely, for me, a guy that I'm going to play over Hopkins, mostly because of the question marks surrounding Hopkins going into this game.
Very cool. Well,
I do think game script affects it also. Again, having a receiver like Hopkins against a team like Chicago that isn't a big point scoring team versus a receiver on Baltimore that seems to give up points to everybody. They are not the Baltimore Ravens of old. They have no cornerbacks that are experienced at this point. And I know that the Steelers aren't the daunting team they used to be, but they're going to score points on the Ravens.
One great thing is the fact that you have these two options. And you will, if I say that correctly, I know you're probably itching to get D-Hop back into your lineup. But it's nice that you're going to have this guy down the stretch going into the fantasy playoffs.
And now he has another one. Since you picked Brown, you starting him over Jalen Waddle?
Oh, that's a tough one.
That's a really tough one.
Yeah. DeVante Parker, is he back today? Because I'm pretty sure he's back.
DeVante Parker's back. The Giants are hard to pass on, easy to throw on. Mike Glennon's at quarterback. Waddle is a great player to have these days. In that comparison, I'm playing Hollywood Brown over him. I'd be trying to find a way to get them both in your lineup. But again, situationally, I think the Ravens situation this week is stronger than the Dolphins with Waddle. And Tony, I know you've shared with me when Parker plays, it changes everything.
It does, because Parker is is a volume monster himself in that offense. So you've already talked about Gaskin and you liking him this week. Ordinarily, I would say Waddle. I think Waddle for me is an every week must start. He's kind of earned that type of role in on your roster moving forward. He's kind of in that 12 to 15 range. It's just Marquise Brown. He just provides so much upside this week versus that Pittsburgh defense that he's a guy that I'm probably going to want to get in there, even over someone like Waddle.
And the Giants are deceptively sneaky against receivers. They are really hard to throw on, actually, and they're so easy to run on. Other teams just go with it. And again, with Glennon at quarterback, you can't see the Giants putting up a big fight.
Right.
I don't remember if it was this show or another show, Tony, that I was joking with you about. We need to act like we're gonna stop so we get more questions. Because now all of a sudden they're piling in. All of a sudden, one more follow up with Oil here. I guess now he's looking for a flex now that he's got his receiver set. Waddle, Saquon, or Mitchell? I think Mitchell's the no-brainer there.
Yeah, to move this quick, that's Mitchell. It's a no-brainer. And
100% Mitchell.
Yeah. We got one here from James. Flex need one. Renfro, Gronk, Freeman, or Higgins?
Wow, those are some tough choices. I'm looking at either Renfro or Gronk.
Same.
100%. I think the first thing we're doing before you go on, sorry, Dave, not to interrupt you, is before you looking at who to start, I like to kind of what guys am I eliminating right off the bat. And so in those four names, Freeman and Higgins are the first two guys you kind of take off the list, and you kind of simplifies your decision because it's now between Renfro and Gronk.
And for me, I'm actually going to go Gronk because when I'm not sure what to do, I'm picking the better quarterback. So, and Gronk's been super consistent. He's almost the number one receiver on that team right now.
That's fair. I like Renfro.
Fair enough. I like Renfro too, and here's why. It's because Tampa Bay just has too many options for my blood. Now, Gronk certainly is probably one of the best options that you have in that offense. But this could be another Leonard Fournette game, and that makes it a little bit more concerning for me on someone like Gronk or Godwin or Evans. Renfro, on the other hand, is going to be a volume monster today without Waller. I love him. I think that he's the start. By the way, this is all assuming that you're talking PPR.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Now that looks like it. We're going to go for real because I know David has stuff to do. Oh, my God. Oil. This guy has impeccable timing. Last one, buddy. We have to go. James Conner, Saquon, or Javonte?
Well, in the Tony fashion, I'm eliminating Saquon. The Giants offense terrifies me this week for how bad they could be. And I'm going to go Javonte Williams with no Melvin Gordon. He's been breaking tackles better than anyone else. If you put his stats with Gordon's together every week, that'd probably be running back one on the season. And now he is alone there. So it's got to be Javonte in Denver for me.
What do you think, Tony?
Yeah, I love Javonte also this week. I think that is probably the direction that I would go. I also agree. I would eliminate Saquon. I'm not crazy about the matchup for Connor at Chicago. So I like Connor, Kyler Murray back, D-Hop back. With Gordon out, I just think Javonte is the way you got to go. I totally agree.
And Kyler Murray takes away from Connor to some extent. I think he was running it more because they were less excited to throw, but Kyler runs in a lot of touchdowns. They weren't doing that with Colt McCoy out there. So
yeah, true.
And just real quick on Saquon, I love Saquon. My concern with Saquon this week is without Daniel Jones and that offense so banged up, Miami's defense is very, very deceptively good against the run. And so Saquon for me is more of a question mark.
Got another question.
Of course we do. And I think I know why this one came in. It's because he's trolling us. Gaskin or Cooks if Henderson doesn't play for my flex?
Let's start doing these rapid fire because there's more coming in. I'm doing Gaskin for sure. I'd play him over Henderson even if Henderson plays. Cooks has a nice matchup, but Gaskins is just a dream this week against the Giants.
Tony?
I'm not a Gaskin believer, so I'm leaning Cooks. I like what Cooks did against this Colts offense in week 6. I also think that the Colts are going to put points on the board, and Houston's going to have to throw the football. Cooks is the number one receiver, so I like Cooks a lot more. I think he has a higher ceiling.
I also prefer Cooks. We got another one here. CEH, Boston Scott, Coleman, or Damian Harris pick 2.
This is easy for me. I'm doing the rule of elimination. Don't start a Jet running back. That's rule number 1. Unless his name is Michael Carter. So Tevin Coleman's gone. Next, don't start an Eagle running back ever. And Boston Scott's banged up anyway. CEH is definitely playing today now. So I'm playing him. And I don't love the matchup for Damian Harris. But again, at least we know he's healthy.
Damian Harris is a touchdown-dependent running back. He is not going to do much in this matchup versus this elite Buffalo defense. I don't want any part of that run game this week. I totally agree with you on Tevin Coleman, Boston Scott. CEH, I'm telling you, CEH, many owners were scared off from CEH because of how involved Darrell Williams was in that game, in that offense without him. But with CEH back, this guy has taken control of that running game. The running game is going to flow through CEH. He's an elite receiver out of the backfield. I have CEH. I love him rest of season also, by the way. I think rest of season, he's in my top 15.
Got pick 2, Tony.
I missed that. So I'm going to have to go CEH and Boston Scott. Who did you pick?
Damian Harris. Boston Scott's questionable. They're not sure he's going to
play. So check the injury report. If Boston Scott's a go, I love him in the matchup.
I agree. If he's playing, it's different. But if he's
Miles Sanders is also banged up, and the coaching staff is down on Sanders. So there's no way Damian Harris is in my lineup this week against Belichick. I don't trust, and this is not going to happen. But he's the type of guy. Damian Harris could be a healthy scratch today for all we know with the way Belichick runs his backfield, and just against that Buffalo defense, it's an elite run defense. I'm not playing him. So I go CH and Boston Scott.
Yeah, like David has his. Never start a Philly running back. I'm never starting a New England running back. So I like Boston Scott better there also. CEH is the no-brainer. All right, we got another one here. Good morning, y'all. Should I start Connor or CEH in RB2? I have Taylor in RB1.
This is easy, Connor.
I think it's easy, Edwards-Helaire. Here's the only thing with CEH is, because I do have stock in CEH, just keep an eye on the injury report. I know he didn't practice on Friday. He's dealing with the illness. This seems to be going around the league. We saw someone like, for example, Lamar Jackson recently miss a game for an illness. So just make sure he's healthy, he's ready to go. And if he is, I definitely like CEH.
And I would play Connor no matter what. He's the guaranteed number one on that team.
So CEH.
But CEH is on a team, as you like to say, with a lot of other options, and including at running back, Darrell Williams is still going to be involved. Connor's going to get every carry.
CEH in this offense with a lot of other options, going back to when he was healthy before he had the injury, was averaging 18 to 20 touches a game. I don't think that's going to change. I think this is a team that has recognized its need to play complementary football. I think CEH is going to have a real solid role in this offense moving forward, assuming he's healthy.
Well, I guess I have to break the tie. I actually like CEH better as well.
You just love Tony today. This is
he's making the better picks this week. I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
Well, we'll see what the better picks are after the game.
I don't think Connor is that. I think they try to get Kyler back in and going, and I really don't think Connor does that well today. Not like you would expect against that matchup. He says also tight end Gesicki or Ertz.
Ertz is getting borderline elite usage in that offense as far as his target share. Murray is back. Ertz is a must play. I think Ertz for me is a top 8 tight end this week.
Well, we definitely don't agree a lot this week because I'm going Gesicki. You can't throw to the receivers on the Giants, but you can throw to the tight end. So to me, it's Gesicki.
Okay.
You're gonna hate me, but I'm going with Ertz as well.
Excellent. I want you to write all these down. Let's have a scorecard after today.
Yeah, I mean, so just real quick, just a quick reminder. Devontae Parker's back. Waddle is already a volume monster. I just think Gesicki gets knocked down the pecking order. You've also got Gaskin. I mean, this whole offense is not going to go off.
Yeah, but Ertz has been a target monster with Colt McCoy at quarterback mostly. New quarterbacks lean on tight ends. If Hopkins plays, A.J. Brown, Kirk, there's a lot of mouths to feed over there as well. The difference is the Giants can cover receivers. So I'm going Gesicki.
Okay.
I think Parker coming back just crushes Gesicki's value. So, but we'll see. I suppose we shall see. I am going to write a lot of this crap down so we can review it next week.
What is it saying? I'm 100% right 60% of the time.
Exactly.
Well, and I like to say I'm not always right, but I'm never wrong. So
I think you're both full of it, and we're going to call it a day right there.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here today. Had some new faces in here today, so Thank y'all for joining us. Make sure and hit that subscribe button, that like button for us. And we'll see y'all next week. I'll see you in just a little bit on the Fantasy Football Network pregame. Tony, David, appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Good
Thank
luck.
you, guys. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate the support. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And Kyle, when you say smart things later, make sure that you let him know it was the Twins that taught you this stuff.
Absolutely. I'm just going to hang a sign behind me that says Kyle, like, via the DFS Twins.
Yeah, DFS Twins graduate.
So. There you go. I might still have my graduation cap from when I graduated college, but I have to pull that out. All right, gents. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see everybody later.
Appreciate that. You too. Thanks, Kyle.
Take care. Good luck.